Good evening to God's people, giving honor to our Bishop, Jacqueline E. McCullough, and our pastor, Reverend Dr. Maria Seaman, the elder Kent Seaman. Pastor, I'm humbled to be given this opportunity to grace this pulpit one more time in the presence of God and in the presence of his people. It is my prayer that you will hear what thus saith the Lord, that you do not see who stands before you, but you hear what thus saith the Lord only. We have already prayed, the scripture has already been read, and we're going to get into this. So as Pastor would say, let's do this.
Yes, exactly.
You can all take your seats. Thank you. And I don't want to let this moment pass by without honoring my husband, who tarries along with me when I go through the process of preparation. God knew not to give me somebody who would coddle me, but someone who would uphold me.
Good.
And I honor you and I thank you.
Bless you.
Tonight's topic is what's in a name. I thought and I was sure this was going to go in many different directions. But this was a message that I had to live out from the inception before even understanding what the title would be. John 1:9 was not a familiar text to me in terms of one of those popular texts that one would be familiar with to just turn to. So I knew it was the Spirit of God. So as we get into this, let's do and have a little childhood fun. Let's sing our ABCs. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Now I know my ABCs. Next time, won't you sing with me? The alphabet is one of the fundamental academic lessons we are taught. It served as a basis for spelling and reading, for without it, we would be hard-pressed to do either. In preparation for school, we're taught the importance of our names and how to spell them. Oh yes, them. All of them. The first, the second, the third, and the last. And let's not forget the creative punctuation marks of the day. You know, the accent over the E, the hyphen between the first and second name to create one name, which can present an issue for a teacher with a trained eye during roll call. Once upon a time, a name was the only thing a person needed to be identified. Nowadays, society requires a name, a birth certificate, a passport, a license, an immigration letter, etc. We live in an age where we are tracked, and it's most important to carry a good name, one that's associated with honor and integrity, a name that speaks for itself. Do you know anyone that carries the name with such authority? As we explore God's heart in the following 3 points, consider the purpose of your name. Point number 1, the pressure. Who are you? Point number 2, the point. What are you doing? Point number 3, the purpose in what you are doing. Point number 1, the pressure. Who are you? In John 1, verse 19, the priests and the Levites asked a bold question. Who are you? Really? Who are you that you have such boldness to ask me who I am? That would have been our either verbal or response via our body language, and it would have been an unpleasant message that we would have sent. But these men had the right to ask such a question. For the priests were not only responsible for the temple, but they were also guardians of the faith, investigating any new teachings of the day. And the Levites were their assistants responsible for serving the priests. John sparked their attention. he was saying and doing things that were contrary to the traditional narrative of the day. The priests and the Levites wanted to ensure that John had the credentials required to be teaching.
Say that, yeah.
Plus, he had a massive following, which was increasing. And I'm sure that jealousy played a role in the questioning as well, because they were sent by the Pharisees. John's unorthodox response, in keeping with his unorthodox behavior, rather than a direct answer, he dismantled their thoughts. You see, he knew they wanted to know if he was the Christ, because there was already talk in the streets. The gossip was hot. Luke 3:15 says that the people were in expectation, and all men mused in their hearts of John, whether or not he was the Christ. So they knew. He already knew why he was being questioned. There's always someone investigating you and the call on your life.
All right.
Plotting and planning behind the scenes, troubled by your progress and your presence. Yes, you irritate them to the point of distraction. Becoming less focused on the call over their life and more focused on your name. They didn't ask about John's message. They didn't ask about his message. They only wanted to know who he was.
Right.
Based on position, people may have the right to ask you appropriate and inappropriate questions about who you are and what you are doing. But, oh, the but, their motive is what disqualifies them.
Disqualified.
Their motive is what disqualifies them. Seeking to use position to intimidate and distract you from the purpose. Now you're off track, out of position, and so are they, because their heart became tainted by their motive. So now the body loses not one but two soldiers distracted by this mess as it plays out. You know, God called you for a specific kingdom purpose, but you're doubting God because they questioned your credentials. What college did you attend? What degrees do you have? How much experience do you have?
Come on now.
Now you become the modern day doubting Thomas. Rather than respond with the word, where God promised that your gift would make room for you,
Hallelujah.
you respond to their ingenuine questions outside of the will of God for your life, disqualifying you from your God-given qualifications because you allowed your will, emotions to overthrow you and not stay focused on his will in the situation.
Yep.
And they dig deeper. They had the unmitigated nerve to dig deeper.
My.
Remember, they never directly asked if he was Christ, but they specifically asked, are you Elijah?
Right.
This was a legitimate question based on their authorities and their duties. But why did they do this? They asked specifically because the expectation was that Elijah, a prophet, would arrive prior to the Messiah.
Right.
But John was causing havoc, raising eyebrows of the traditionalists of the day. His ways were far from traditional.
That's the truth.
He was making proclamations outside of the religious narrative.
Yes.
But John tactfully entertained them. While never moving from his position and purpose, his verbal and body language lined up based on what was in his heart. John knew who he was and why he was birthed.
That's it.
He carried something because it was attached to someone.
Yes.
So after all of this, they finally welcome some decorum to the party. While vague, they give explanation for the questioning. In verse 22, they said unto him, who art thou? That we may give answer to them that sent us. Why sayest thou of thyself? Which leads me to point 2. The point. What are you doing? In verse 23, John boldly declares the word of God, never communicating his name. Never communicating his name. Yet he spoke to his identity, confirming the voice of Isaiah in Isaiah 4:3, which mirrors verse 23 in today's text. He said, I am a voice of one crying in the wilderness. Make straight the way of the Lord, as Isaiah the prophet said. John didn't immediately give away his identity. He engaged in dialogue, allowing them to do the talking. If you let people talk long enough, they'll reveal their heart. Stop giving up your position for free, allowing the motive and agenda of people to remain silent while they take a piece of your identity.
My Lord.
How many times do we talk and we talk and we talk and we talk because someone's asking us questions and they had no business asking us, but we done gave them everything of who we are and therefore given away and given up our identity. So you give them access into your life that God never intended for them to have.
Come on now.
Verse 25, they asked him and said to him, why then are you baptizing if you are not Christ, or Elijah, nor the prophet? Brothers and sisters, John was unusual, unorthodox, just like God to stir the waters. You won't always find God in the same place doing the same things that generations of old experienced. We have the God-given authority to be who we are, to do what we do, say what, and go where he sent us.
That's right.
When we were walking in the will of God, our Father, without compromise.
Amen.
So when man question your position, declare with boldness and authority who you are. Do not be moved from your assignment. Even if you stand alone, do not be moved. John was bold. John was born to do what he was doing.
That's right.
He declared with yet again boldness, I baptize in water, but among you stands one whom you don't know.
Wow.
He told them, you've learned of me. While I have purpose, I am not the purpose. Point number 3. The purpose around what you're doing. John recognized the purpose for his life and that it had nothing to do with him. He was born to be the forerunner for Christ, doing as he was commissioned no matter the cost. He was unmoved, abounding in the purpose on purpose. His mother and father raised him with the confidence and the boldness to be who he was called to be. John was a man, just as you and I, and lived with the focus of that purpose daily. He was born on purpose, with purpose, forever before him, never losing focus. Can this be said of us? Do we remain focused when everyone else around us is losing focus?
Right.
What is your position and why? Distractions are not the fault of people. While people are our focus, people with vain intentions seeking to cause us to become distracted is not your focus, and it is not your business.
Oh, that's your business. Come on now.
Remain focused while God takes you through, remembering who you are.
That's right.
What is in your name?
That's it.
It's not about what your mother named you. It's about the identity associated with what you've been called to do.
That's it.
In closing, we are who we are. So let's leave who we were where it was in the sea of forgetfulness. Understanding through Christ who we are and what must die. Let's vow to remain focused on who he is, learning more about who we are so that we can point the lost to the way.
Yes, yes.
To lead people away from sin by pointing out the sin. We do this as we live a life that's pleasing to God without compromise.
That's right.
Going before God daily, willing to be purged with hyssop, that the light of Christ shines freely on the sin in our hearts. And as we change and manifest the love of Christ, those that are closest to you will change as well.
Amen.
I saved my testimony for last because if I would have stood up and given my testimony, it would have revealed a bit of the message. This last 6 weeks, Lynae has learned her identity.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
It is my prayer and my heart that each and every one of my brothers and sisters that sit here in Worship Shekinah Center
Thank you, God.
forget about who they were and recognize who they are.
Yes, yes.
That you live on purpose, that you live with boldness, that you live in the authority of Christ
Hallelujah.
and who you've been called to be,
That's it.
and that you know who you are based on your identity. To God be the glory for great things he has done. God bless you.
Amen. Beautiful, beautiful.